Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the qualifying report for the Canadian Grand Prix. Let's jump straight into this then by having a look at the provisional result. Obviously this could all change between now and the race tomorrow, but as it stands at time of recording, Sebastian Vettel will start on pole position ahead of Lewis Hamilton. That's a mouth-watering prospect tomorrow, just 0.2 of a second between them. Charles Leclerc is third for Ferrari, 0.6 off though, a long way back. But look at Daniel Ricciardo there in fourth place for Renault. What a session for him. Pierre Gasly is fifth in the leading Red Bull, more on that later, and Valtteri Bottas could only manage sixth. He had a spin during his first run in qualifying 3, very good save to keep it out of the wall. And then on his second run, he didn't really have the best of preparation laps and was very sloppy, so sixth was about the best he could do today. Nico Hülkenberg, 7th for Renault. Lando Norris is 8th for McLaren, so both McLarens did get into Q3 with Carlos Sainz in 9th. However, the Spaniard will be taking a 3-place grid drop for impeding Alexander Albon during the session. And then to round out the top 10 is Kevin Magnussen. However, no time in Q3 after a massive crash towards the end of Q2, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Max Verstappen ended up down in 11th place. Again, I will talk about that shortly, with Daniel Kvyat in 12th and Antonio Giovinazzi in 13th. I feel like that's an important result for the Italian, but Alexander Albon was down in 14th and Romain Grosjean in 15th. Sergio Perez was knocked out in Q1, as was Kimi Raikkonen, and that was the first time since Austria 2015 that the Finn has failed to make it to at least Q2. Lance Stroll at his home Grand Prix down in 18th place, once again knocked out early on. And then of course it is the two Williams boys of George Russell and Robert Kubica. What about strategy for tomorrow then? Well, as you saw there, both the Mercs and both Ferraris will be starting on the medium tyres, whereas the rest of the top 10 will be on the softs. There has been a lot of talk about how the softs won't last long, with some teams even predicting a flurry of very early pit stops. Now, according to Pirelli, the quickest strategy is to run the mediums for about 35 to 40 laps and then put on the hards to the end of the race. But those starting on the softs are expected to struggle, and it is projected that they will have to pit somewhere between laps 5 and 8, really early stops. They would then run the hards to the end as well, and a 2-stopper is possible, and that will be a short stint on the softs and then 2 stints on the mediums. As always then, let's have a look at some of the reaction from the top 3 drivers, starting with pole sitter Sebastian Vettel. This is his first pole position since Germany last season, getting on for a full year, but it was his 5th in total around the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. There was a clear outpouring, I guess, of relief and emotion over the radio from Seb and Ferrari, and I've got to say, having watched the onboard, it was one hell of a lap. To be honest, I felt like Hamilton had got it all done with the first 2 runs. It just looked like once again, he and Mercedes had too much when it came to the crunch. But massive credit to Seb for what was a seriously good lap. But anyway, speaking straight after the session, Vettel said that he was happy for his team after what has been a very difficult run so far this season. Hamilton is bloody good in qualifying, hard to crack. I'm full of adrenaline. You know the feeling in the car when it just keeps coming, you feel the grip and you just go for it. It was one of those laps, really nice. I am very happy for the team, as the last weeks have been tough for us. The German also pointed out that he's pleased he won't have to run the soft tyres tomorrow after struggling with their lack of grip during Friday's long running. It was awful, but today the car was a lot better. We'll take that into tomorrow. We avoid the red soft tyre in the race as we managed to get through on the medium tyre. It was a good day. The car was good and we can carry that into the race. Mercedes will be quick over a race distance, but we'll try everything. As for Lewis Hamilton, well, he seems to be relishing the fight this weekend and has said that he hopes Ferrari will be able to take the fight to Mercedes for the rest of this season. This is fantastic for the sport. I love to fight with another team, and today was just so close. I had no idea where we were going to be. At some stages they were ahead of us and we were swapping all the way. I hope this is a turning point for them and it's going to be a very close fight from now on, and we're going to have a serious battle throughout the season. That would be fantastic. The world champion did also mention the Scuderia's impressive straight line speed, which he believed was around 0.6 quicker, and accepted that the Mercedes were just not able to match them today. And finally, for the top 3, Charles Leclerc has taken the blame for letting qualifying, in his words, slip away, and says that he needs to work on setting the car up better for Q3. I struggled with the car, the setup maybe. I felt quite good with Q1, but then I didn't really follow the track more as the track was getting better. I need to work on that on the setup and try to find the right setup for the final Q3 time. I struggled today in Q3. In Q1, the car felt quite good. Q2, a bit worse. Q3, it slipped away, and I also did some mistakes. I need to understand where it comes from to just try to anticipate the track evolution and have the car at its best in Q3. It's my fault, and I need to work on that to make it better. Before moving on, I should also add that Leclerc has been summoned to the stewards for failing to keep to the left of the bollard when rejoining the track at turn 8. Now, at time of recording, no decision has been made. However, if anything does get announced between now and this video going out, I will post a link to an article in the description and in the comment section. Aside from the battle for pole and Daniel Ricciardo's awesome results, the biggest talking point of the session was probably Kevin Magnussen's crash, which resulted in Max Verstappen being knocked out in Q2. The Dane was pushing hard, and as he exited the final chicane, he hit the wall of champions and damaged the rear. That pitched him around into a spin, and he came across the track and slammed into the pit wall. Massive accident, but thankfully K-Mag was absolutely fine. Unsurprisingly, that brought out the red flag, which meant a number of drivers were unable to complete their final flying laps. Not only Verstappen, but also the second Haas of Romain Grosjean, who was massively frustrated over team radio with the lack of luck he seems to be getting at the moment. Some have questioned Red Bull on their strategy, but in my opinion, I think it was well worth the gamble to send Max out on the mediums for his first run. Yes, it's a risk around a track like Canada, but I just feel like he was unlucky on this occasion. He struggled for grip on his first run and did get traffic, which, although out of the way, would have hampered him to some degree, and then of course Magnussen put it into the wall on his second run. Without that red flag, Max would more than likely have made it through on the soft tyres. Yeah, I get they could have played it safe, but the mediums are by far the better tyre for the race this weekend. And if the front runners have to pit early to get rid of the softs, they will likely rejoin in traffic and that will compromise them. Then again, as I'm sure many of you will point out, he's now compromised anyway. Let me know what you think in the comment section though. Just quickly to round this bit off, Kevin Magnussen could yet take some penalties depending on how extensive the damage is to his car. The Dane has apparently told the media that he will need at least a new gearbox and perhaps even a new chassis, and if the latter is true, he will be starting from the pit lane tomorrow. And of course, if he does take a grid drop, that would promote Verstappen another place as well. And that all leads me on very nicely to my one to watch. Yes, you've guessed it, I'm going with Max Verstappen. And I'm sorry in advance, Verstappen fans, if this jinxes him. With Carlos Sainz taking a penalty, he starts the race tomorrow from 10th at worst, could be as high as 9th of course. He will absolutely still get a free choice of tyre and you can overtake around the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, so I fully expect to see Max give us one of his comeback drives. Maybe not as spectacular as Austin last year, for example, but exciting to watch nonetheless. A few honourable mentions though. If he does need to take penalties, Kevin Magnussen could well be worth keeping an eye on. Actually, having said that, so could his teammate because Romain Grosjean is also out of position. The Toro Rossos have shown some good pace, so they could make it interesting in that midfield, and definitely watch out for Daniel Ricciardo on that opening lap. In all honesty, the grid is set up very nicely for tomorrow. Roll on, lights out. That is it then for this weekend's qualifying report, but don't forget you can let me know your thoughts about today's session and on tomorrow's race in the comment section down below. Now, I will be back tomorrow evening shortly after the race for some live reaction to the Canadian Grand Prix. But in the meantime, you can follow me over on social media. The links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.